Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to lesson 3-4. We're going to be talking about partial products again today, and we're going to be looking at area models. So these are similar to arrays, except the parts are all put together, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Let's take a look at our video lesson.
How can you use an area model and partial products to multiply? A garden is in the shape of a rectangle. It is 8 feet wide and 25 feet long. What is the area of the garden? How can you find the area of the garden?
Select your answer.
Now what we're doing here, if we're saying that it's 8 feet wide, so you have 8 groups, right? And it's 25 feet long. So 8 groups with 25 in each group. So what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply to find our answer.
Since the garden is a rectangle, multiply its dimensions to find the area of the garden. A numerical expression contains numbers and at least one operation. 8 times 25 is a numerical expression.
So numerical expression is basically just a fancy way of saying a number sentence where you have your numbers and you need to do something with it. Now, when we're talking about the area and they give you 2 measurements, we're looking at the area of either a square or a rectangle. If the numbers are the same, then it's a square. That means it's got the same height as the same width, or the same number of groups as the number inside each group if we were thinking about an array.
You can use a rectangular area model to show multiplication. The product of 8 times 25 is the area of the rectangle.
Okay, so over here, this is 8. So think of this as 8 groups with 25 in each group, just like we were looking at arrays before. So this side is 8 and this side is 25. So to figure out all the stuff that's in the middle, the area that's the inside of this rectangle, we multiply these numbers together. So remember, the area is the space inside.
8 times 25 is about 8 times 30 equals 240. Break 25 into tens and ones. The smaller section represents multiplication of the ones. The larger section represents multiplication of the tens. 8 times 5 equals 40. 8 times 20 equals 160. 160 plus 40 equals 200. Eight times 25 equals 200. The area of the garden is 200 square feet. The product, 200, is close to the estimate of 240. The answer is reasonable.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to apply all of this information that we just gathered, and we're going to take a look at our notes and our guided practice for this lesson. So we talked about a few things. We talked about numerical expressions, which is basically, like we said, a fancy way of showing a number sentence. So it shows numbers and at least one operation: adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. You can have more than one in there if you want to. It's still a numerical expression. An area model shows multiplication because the product of the measurement on the sides, so the product of those numbers, is equal to the area of that shape. And we can use what we call the distributive property to break apart our numbers. So what we did in the previous part when we were looking at 8 times 25 was we distributed the 25 into the tens group, the 20, and then the ones group, which is the 5. Same like we did previously in the last lesson where we were dividing up using our 10 rods and our 1 cubes. Now for this one, it says, does 12 take away the product of 4 times 2? Is that equal to 12 take away 4 times 12 take away 2. So let's try and work this out. 12 take away 4 times 2. Whenever you have parentheses, you have to do what's inside the parentheses first. So if we have 12 take away 4 times 2, we have to do the 4 times 2 first. So 12 minus, what is 4 times 2? That's 8. So 12 take away 8, that's going to give us 4. Let's see if the other half is true. So we have 12 minus 4 times 12 minus 2. So let's see, whoops. Let's see if our products here are the same. So 12 take away 4 is 8. 8 times 12 take away 2 is 10, is equal to 80. Now, are these numbers equal? 4 is definitely not equal to 80. So when you're using your distributive property, you cannot, or your associative property that we were looking at from our last lesson that says that we can multiply, we can change the grouping when we multiply. Because this has subtraction in it, it doesn't get to follow that rule. That rule only applies when you're multiplying or when you are adding. You can change the order of the numbers. Because multiplication is repeated addition, those are kind of the same thing. Division and subtraction are something entirely different that we cannot use. So always check your work. If it's got different kinds of operations in that numerical expression, in that number sentence, if you're using different kinds of operation like multiplication and subtraction or division and addition or whatever it is, you cannot use that property for this kind of problem. The associative property only applies to addition and to multiplication. Now let's take a look, before we take a look at our guided practice, this is the example at the top that we were working on just a moment ago in the lesson. Or no, sorry, this is another example other than the one we were working on. So over here that said find 5 times 123. So here's your 5 on this side, and 123 is all the way across the top. So they broke it up into 100 and then 20 and then 3. So when you multiply, you do the 5 times the 100, then the 5 times the 20, and then last you do the 5 times the 3. Now that you have those 3 partial products, because you have to do 3 different operations, you're going to add those partial products together to find your whole answer. So before we do the guided practice questions, I want to take a look at our notes that we've taken throughout this lesson. Now, remember we said a numerical expression shows numbers and at least one operation, and it's a fancy way to just say an equation with numbers. So 2 times 5 equals 10. That's a numerical expression. 3 plus 12 equals 15. 14 minus 3 equals 9. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. These are all different numerical expressions. Numerical comes from the word number. So that should be easy to remember. Now, we also talked about area models. An area model shows multiplication. The product of the measurement of those sides is equal to the area of the model that you're looking at. So here's an example for you. So I have 3 times 12. This is my area. I have 3 centimeters by 12 centimeters this way. I split my 12 centimeters into 10 and 2. So in order to find the area, I need to do 3 times 10 to find the area in here. And I need to do 3 times 2 to find the area in here. So 3 times 2 is equal to the area of this whole rectangle. When I did that, my 3 times 10 gave me a partial product of 30. My 3 times 2 gave me a partial product of 6. When I added them together, I got an answer of 36 centimeters, and it's going to be squared. So we'll talk about area measurements another time. Make sure you're always putting the units in if they give you units. So over here, if I'm measuring in centimeters, your answer should have centimeters on it. If we're measuring in feet, your answer has to have feet on it. If you're measuring in inches and so on. Now, you can use a distributive property to break apart your multiplication equation into smaller parts that are easier most of the time, and then find the sum of those parts. So what we did over here above is we use a distributive property. We distributed 12 into 10 and 2 more because 10 plus 2 is equal to 12. And then we did the math and found our answer at the bottom. So let's go ahead and take a look at our guided practice for today. Now, our guided practice, our first question said, what numerical expression is shown by the area model below? So we have this area model right here, and we need to write the number sentence that goes with it. So we have 7 times, over here across, we have 260 and 5. So 200 plus 60 is 260, plus 5 is 265. So 7 times 265 is equal to the area of this shape. So I can do over here 7 times 200, 7 times 60, and then in here 7 times 5 to find my partial product. So 7 times 200 is 1400 or 1400. 7 times 60 is 420, and 7 times 5 is 35. So I can add those together to find my area. So that's 1400 plus 420 plus 35. And I can solve. 0 and 0 is 5, and 5 is 5. 0 plus 2 plus 3 is also 5. 4 plus 4 is 8. And then I drop that one. So my area is 1,855. Now I could have stacked and multiplied if I want to check my answer. So 265 times 7. You always want to check your work more than once to make sure that your answer is correct. So 7 times 5 is 35, put the 5, carry the 3. 6 times 7 is 42. 42 plus 3 is 45, put the 5, carry the 4. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 4 is 18. So I can see that my answer here and my answer here match. So that means I completed my area model multiplication correctly. Now for number 2, it says multiply, use the area model and partial products. So here's my area model. Here's my partial products. So over here, I need to do 7 times 500 to find an answer. Here, I need to do 7 times 60 to find my answer as well. So I'm going to use what I know. I'm going to use my basic facts first. So 7 times 5 is 35, and I have 2 zeros here. So I'm going to add 2 zeros onto my number because we're multiplying by multiples of 100. Over here, I'm going to use my basic facts again. 7 times 6 is 42. I have a 0 right here, so I'm going to add a 0 onto my answer. And then I'm going to find that 3,500 plus 420 is 3,920. I'm going to check by stacking and multiplying. 7 times 0 is 0. Remember the 0 property. Any number times 0 is 0. 6 times 7 is 42. Put the 2, carry the 4. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 4 is 39. So I see that my answer here and my answer here match. So I know I did my multiplication correctly. Now, for the rest of your assignments over here, for our independent practice, what we're going to do is we're going to be solving more of these area models. So take a look at the numbers they're giving you. Do your multiplication carefully. Show me your partial products down here. So show me how you split it apart. 6 times 30 equals 6 times 4 equals. Write out your numerical expressions, those multiplication sentences, before you answer, and make sure you answer both pages all the way to the last question. If you have any questions about this lesson, 4th grade, please let me know. Otherwise, have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.